Chapter 1186. Primordial Demon Region, Southeast Battlefield. As the two kings were deciding the victor, Kun Tian unsheathed his sword from a high mountain far away. The earth-shattering sword cut through the void. It was so dazzling that it attracted the attention of tens of thousands of soldiers. Above the battlefield, Xian Qi, who had just experienced a fierce battle, felt a strong killing intent coming from behind him. He subconsciously turned around and waved his sword to meet the attack. Boom! Burning Heart and Kun Tian, the two peerless divine weapons clashed. Sparks flew in the sky and Xian Qi felt his right arm go numb. His injured body could not use his true yuan. The sword tip entered his body and blood splattered. The demon body was dyed red, shocking everyone present. Gu Shengtian took a step forward and the ancient sword in his hand slashed another inch forward, slaying the devil cultivator. Xian Qi's expression darkened. He raised his left hand and closed two fingers, stopping the sword in his body. Burning Heart, Heaven's Wrath. The king's sword was thwarted. The demonic aura of the Burning Heart demon sword increased. Suddenly, thunder and fire appeared in the void. It was as if the heavens were angry and wanted to destroy the world. The sword slashed down and the sky was filled with black light. The sword of a king could not be blasphemed. Gu Shengtian's expression did not change. He pulled out his sword and retreated 100 steps. When he reappeared, he was already behind the demon. The ancient sword pierced through the air once again, its murderous intent hidden within, making it impossible for one to guard against. Xian Qi stepped forward and the two swords clashed. The injured celestial demon prince retreated half a step. His mouth was red. In the battle of the top swordsmen, one was heavily injured and had lost the initiative. The other was in his prime and had the advantage. The invincible king of the demons showed signs of weakness. Gu Shengtian had the advantage. His sword was unpredictable. His sword was fast, strange, and ruthless. Every move was merciless and deadly. On the other hand, Xian Qi was injured and his moves were restricted. Facing the strongest Eastern region lord of the No. 1 pavilion, he was about to lose. Whoosh! The ancient sword slashed through and the sound of clothes tearing could be heard. Blood flowed out of Xian Qi's left shoulder. He had avoided the fatal attack but could not avoid the sword Qi. What an amazing swordsman! You have angered me. After being suppressed for more than 10 moves, the anger in Xian Qi's eyes became more and more intense. He took the sword head-on and immediately used all his martial arts, his ultimate move appearing again. Burning Heart, Blood Sacrifice. He held the sword horizontally in front of him, and blood dyed the demonic weapon red. At the point where the sword hilt and the sword edge met, the chaos demonic stone spun rapidly, and in an instant, the demonic aura rapidly spread out, and waves of demonic flames crazily spread out, covering the scorching sun in the west. Instantly, the world darkened, and only black flames filled the air. An indescribable sword pressure rose up, and the king's sword revealed its sovereign aura for the first time. Seeing this, Gu Shengtian's expression turned serious. He took a step back and retreated 100 steps. Then he raised his sword and the sun, moon, and stars appeared. Forced to the limit, the three forms combined, and a terrifying sword pressure surged out. The swordsman who had formed his own Tao also revealed his strongest sword. The two swordsmen who stood at the peak of the Tao of swords were about to clash. Just as the victor and loser were about to be decided, on a distant mountain peak, the white-haired figure in plain clothes moved. He formed a seal with his hands and used the Qi Huang forbidden technique again. Once the forbidden technique was used, cracks appeared around Ning Chen's body, and a terrifying backlash attacked him. Even though his body had been reconstructed from the divine tree source, his foundation showed signs of collapsing. At this moment, clouds started to gather in the sky above the battlefield. From the clouds, an undetectable power descended and landed on the demon's body. Arg! The sudden appearance of the power came without any warning. Xian Qi, who was focused on dealing with his enemy, didn't have time to react. However, he felt an intense tearing sensation in his body, and his demonic aura immediately dissipated by more than half. The heavenly talisman showed its might, and at the same time, the sun, moon, and star swords' combined attack crashed into the demon's sword. It was a shocking scene. The demon king who had been ambushed felt blood spurt out of his heart. The sword light pierced through his chest, bringing out a waterfall of dazzling vermilion. On the other side, Gu Shengtian was forced back half a step by the shockwave. His sword hand was also dyed red. With the combination of light and dark, the demon was heavily injured. 10 steps away, Xian Qi stabilized himself and looked at the sky with a gloomy expression. He had never seen such a power before, and he hadn't sensed it at all. Although his attention had been diverted, this power was definitely not ordinary to be able to hide from his divine sense at such a close distance. Before he could finish his thoughts, the black sword light in front of him broke through the air once more. The sword was sharp and filled with killing intent. Xian Qi came back to his senses and met it with his sword. Sunset scene, shadow in battle, peak sword arts, and the battle became more and more intense. Sky-setting sword, one sword sealing god. Kun Tian displayed his might. Gu Shengtian moved with his sword at an extremely fast speed. His killing moves were endless, and each of them chased after the soul. Xian Qi blocked with his sword, but his heavily injured body found it harder and harder to hold on. Blood dyed his clothes red, and it was extremely eye-catching. In the west, the sun gradually set. The battle between the two still hadn't ended. Outside the two's battle, the Sky Demons and the Stone Tribe were also fighting fiercely. The two armies had suffered heavy casualties, and more than half of them were dead. On the mountain peak in the distance, Ning Chen watched the battle quietly. Blood flowed from his arms and dyed the mountain below him red. Even though he had planned every step carefully, without absolute power to ensure that the plan would go smoothly, all his plans would be useless. The fourth demon prince's strength wasn't something a normal demon king could compare to. If the plan was to proceed according to plan, he had to destroy this power of the Sky Demon royal family. Now, he couldn't reveal his identity yet. He couldn't show himself yet, so he had to borrow the power of others. Gu Shengtian, the #1 pavilion in the world, the lord of the East region, could be said to be the strongest swordsman of the human race in the primordial demon realm. He was the best candidate besides Yizhu. The #1 pavilion in the world was a powerful force that dominated the darkness. Their ability to kill was not something that any other force could compare to. As the battle continued, the sun finally set in the sky. When darkness came, the peak sword arts changed again. The figure of the #1 swordsman of the human race flashed in the darkness. In the darkness, only the afterimages could be seen. It was hard to tell which was the real one. Xian Qi waved the burning heart demon sword and broke through the afterimages. Suddenly, he felt that something was wrong. Gu Shengtian's silhouette appeared, blocking the demon's sword with his finger. Around the two of them, sword qi clashed, destroying everything in their path. However, the black ancient Kuan heavenly sword in the hands of the lord of the eastern region had disappeared. Soul as a sword, one sword wind soul. A gust of wind blew and a sword appeared in the wind. The black cold sword appeared behind the demon's sword silently. Xian Qi instinctively dodged to the side. However, it was too late. The ancient sword pierced through his body half an inch to the left of Xian Qi's heart. The ancient sword pierced through his body, bringing with it a bright red color. It was a hair's breadth away. The demon sword's amazing fighting instinct allowed him to avoid the danger and save his life. Blood dripped from the wound and stained the demon sword's body. Xian Qi stumbled and almost fell down. Respected swordsman of the demon sword, you are doomed. Gu Shengtian didn't hesitate. His figure flashed and his sword took Xian Qi's life. The danger of life and death was right in front of him. Instead of being angry, Mysterious Strange laughed. His laughter shook the 9 heavens and 10,000 gods. His deep and crazy laughter sent chills down everyone's spine. Xian Qi's eyes turned blood red. Waves of terrifying demonic energy surged out. Vaguely, the aura of the emperor filled the air. It was clear and powerful. Not good. On the peak far away, Ning Chen's eyes dimmed. The emperor's aura. The fourth prince had already reached the emperor realm. Boom. In the distant battlefield, Kun Tian and Burning Heart were exchanging blows. Horrifying shockwaves blasted out, shattering the illusory stars in the sky above them. The terrifying phenomenon shook the entire battlefield. Two groans sounded in the battle. Sword qi pierced through their bodies. Xian Qi and Gu Shengtian flew out at the same time. They were both severely injured. 100 steps away, Gu Shengtian stabilized himself and looked at the fourth prince of the heavenly demon sword in shock. How was it possible that the fourth prince was injured to this extent and yet he still had such terrifying battle power? Don't fight anymore. Retreat. A calm voice sounded from the peak far away. Gu Shengtian's face darkened when he heard this. He took a step forward and left. In the air, demonic energy surged around Xian Qi. The aura became more and more terrifying. Gradually, it devoured the heavens and earth. The soldiers of the heavenly demon sword and stone tribe couldn't retreat in time and were devoured by the demonic qi. Their bodies quickly turned to dust. In the distance, two people stood in the air and looked at the battlefield. Their expressions were solemn. The fourth prince of the heavenly demon sword is really terrifying, Gu Shengtian said. How can an expert from the antiquity age be mediocre? Ningchen sighed. However, it's a pity that we couldn't kill Xian Qi in today's battle. Gu Shengtian was silent. After a while, he said, I'm sorry. I didn't keep my promise. It's not the territory lord's fault. Ningchen looked at the demonic qi and said, let's leave first. After this battle, Xian Qi is severely injured. He won't be able to recover in a short time. I've achieved my goal. Gu Shengtian nodded and left with the young man beside him. In the dark night, the two disappeared without leaving any trace. They came without a shadow and left without a trace. In the sky above the battlefield, the demonic qi gradually retracted after the demonic qi exploded. The body of a king fell from the sky. His body was 90% damaged. There was no one left in the air. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers had all turned to dust. It was a shocking scene. With a clang, the demonic sword stabbed into the ground. Xian Qi staggered and spat out blood. The blood splattered on the ground and dyed the ground red. Under the imperial Dao, he was invincible. Today, he once again displayed his shocking battle strength. He was fearless. The demonic sword in his hand cut through all schemes. 5 days later, in the southeast of the primordial demon domain, the Stone Tribe's army appeared again. This time, the leader of the army was the Stone Tribe's crown prince. In the southeast, the severely injured fourth prince temporarily returned to the heavenly demon ancestral land. The heavenly demon army couldn't resist the Stone Tribe's attack and was forced to retreat. At this point, the 5 battlefields in the primordial demon domain were defeated. The armies of the 5 Imperials charged in and the flames of war quickly spread to the center of the primordial demon domain. Chapter 1187. In the celestial devil imperial city, the news of the total defeat of the 5 battlefields had spread. The entire imperial city was in a state of panic. It was a crisis they had never faced before. The celestial devil imperial family that had ruled the 100 races since ancient times could not even protect themselves. The imperial prince's commanders had suffered heavy casualties and were defeated again and again. Apart from the 5 sovereign families, there were other major families and even royal families from all over the primordial demon realm who joined the war against the celestial devil imperial family. They worked together with the 5 sovereign families to resist the rule of the celestial devil imperial family. In the celestial devil ancestral land, the heavily injured 4th imperial prince immediately went into seclusion to heal himself. With the loss of the commander in the southeast battlefield, the Stone Tribe's army marched straight in. The situation was even more precarious. In the east, in the Celestial Devil Army's camp, the 3rd Imperial Prince Xian Lai received the report from the southeast battlefield. He was shocked. Xian Qi was heavily injured? How was that possible? He knew 4th strength better than anyone else. Unless an Emperor Realm expert was involved, almost no one could defeat him. The southeast battlefield had always been the one he was most confident in. He did not expect that even 4th side would be lost. Who is the attacker? Have you found out? Xianlai looked at the scout in front of him and asked in a low voice. Imperial Prince, according to Imperial Prince Xianqi's information, the attacker is a mysterious swordsman. He wore a silver robe and held an ancient sword. He wore a black and white hat. His strength is shocking. I have never seen him before, the scout replied respectfully. Xianlai frowned slightly. A swordsman. Fourth was injured by a swordsman. Since when did the primordial demon realm have such a powerful swordsman? Xianlai looked back in the direction of the celestial devil imperial city and narrowed his eyes. In terms of swordsman, that disciple of 9 serenities was indeed a rare swordsman. However, he had only cultivated for a short time and should not be a threat to fourth. In the 3rd imperial city, dark clouds covered the sky. Muffled thunder echoed in the clouds, making the atmosphere even gloomier. In the 13th Crown Prince's residence, Ningchen stood in front of the palace, looking at the clouds outside with a calm expression. The celestial demon royal tribe had lost one battle after another. Their conventional forces were at a disadvantage. Most importantly, the first Kunyi demon emperor was trapped at the eastern end of the battlefield, the 8 Desolation demon emperor was severely injured, and the 7 Luminaries demon emperor and the 9 Serenities demon emperor were guarding the primordial demon realm. The 8 Desolation demon emperor could see the 7 Brilliance demon emperor's worry. He said, "We can't care about the battle for the throne for now. Our top priority is to resolve the crisis at hand." The 7 Brilliance demon emperor nodded. It was the best choice for now. Xianzhen was severely injured and could only stay in the imperial city to recuperate. The disciple of 9 serenities was too weak both in terms of cultivation and the forces around him. They could not support a war. Xianqing was the best choice. Relay the order. Sir. Summon the great commander of the imperial army, Xianmo, and the 3rd prince, Xianqing. Affirmative. The 13th prince's palace in the 3 imperial city. Secret reports came one after another from various battlefields and key factions in the imperial city. There were so many of them on the table that it was dizzying. Ningchen read the secret reports patiently. His mind was spinning rapidly as he considered his next move. Report. At this moment, a black-robed figure appeared out of nowhere outside the palace. He bowed respectfully and said, "Your Highness, Great Commander Xianmo and the 3rd Prince have received the order. They have just left for the 3 Imperial Palace." Ningchen put down the secret report in his hand and said, "Got it. You may leave now." Sir. The black-robed figure accepted the order and vanished into thin air. Ningchen rose to his feet and went to the front of the palace. He looked in the direction of the 3 Imperial city with murderous intent. It was time. The reason why the 2 demon emperors summoned Great Commander Xianmo and Great Commander Xianqing was obvious. The Sky Devil Imperial family did not have enough battle power. They needed to use the Imperial army and the 3rd Prince's power. Putting aside the 3rd Crown Prince for now, using the Imperial Guards was definitely a risky move. The Imperial Guards of the Imperial Guards were the most powerful army in the entire primordial demon realm. However, once the Imperial Guards left, the defense of the 3 Imperial cities would be greatly reduced. The pros and cons were obvious. The fact that the 2 demon emperors used the Imperial army meant that the Sky Devil Imperial family did not have enough power on the surface. They had to use this risky move. This was good news for him. After plotting for so long, it was finally time for him to reap the fruits of his labor. As for Xianqing, he was the opponent that he had left for Quebec. He did not need to worry too much. "Inji," Ningchen said. "Your Highness." In front of the palace, a beautiful figure appeared without a sound. Her pale face was faintly discernible with cracks, and there was a hint of strangeness in her delicate beauty. "Get ready. The opportunity is here," Ningchen said calmly. Hearing this, Inji bowed respectfully and said, "Yes." With that, Inji turned into mist and left the Crown Prince Palace. 2 days later, in front of the 3 Imperial city, 200,000 soldiers of the Sky Devil Imperial Army left for the battlefields. After the Imperial Army left, the defense of the 3 Imperial city became empty. The 9th Prince, Xian Ke, was ordered to temporarily take over the defense of the Imperial city. He became very busy. On the first night, the imperial city was still as peaceful as before. Nothing happened. In the 9th Prince Palace, Xian Ke secretly let out a sigh of relief. The burden on his shoulders was not light. If anything happened in the imperial city, the responsibility would fall on him. Be careful. If there are any suspicious people, capture them immediately, Xian Ke ordered the generals with a serious expression. Yes. The generals turned and left after receiving the order. In the 13th Prince Palace, Ning Chen stood quietly without doing anything. Behind him, Yinji stood there silently, waiting for Ning Chen's order. The sun rose and set. Time passed day after day, but the 3 imperial cities remained abnormally calm. Nothing major happened. The calm before the storm made it hard for people to breathe. In the 9th Prince Palace, Xian Ke's expression became more and more serious. The imperial city was too quiet, so quiet that it was a little scary. On the 5th day, the night came. Dark clouds covered the moon and the sky was gloomy. The people in the imperial city went to bed early. Suddenly, on the east side of the imperial city, a fire broke out. Then, the sound of fighting filled the night, attracting everyone's attention. In the 9th Prince Palace, Xian Ke heard the secret report and his expression sank. Finally, they came. In the 13th Prince Palace, Yinji heard the secret report and a strange expression flashed across her face. She said in confusion, "Your Highness, they are not our people." Ning Chen nodded without much surprise on his face. After the Sky Devil Imperial Army left, the defense of the 3 imperial city was greatly reduced. Many hidden factors would definitely erupt. This was just the beginning. On the east side of the imperial city, the fire spread and burned down several palaces. In other directions, the conspirators who had been hiding for a long time also took action. They had different goals and took advantage of the situation. It didn't take long for all sides to take action, and the entire imperial city began to fall into chaos. Yinji, you go and help them. In the 13th Prince Palace, Ning Chen looked at the girl behind him and said, "No need to do anything big. Just fan the wind and light the fire." Yinji accepted the order and left. In the dark night, the entire imperial city was in chaos. In the east, when the first light of dawn shone, the chaos stopped. Everywhere in the imperial city was a mess, shocking everyone. In the 3 imperial city, Xian Ke, who had been busy the whole night, almost didn't have a moment of rest. Ning Chen chuckled and said, "Did you leave any evidence of your actions last night?" Yinji shook her head and said, "No. Since there is no evidence left behind, what is there to worry about? The ones who should be worried aren't us, but the real conspirators from last night." Ning Chen looked out of the mansion and said, "It's not that easy to take something from the celestial demonic imperial family. If you have the life to snatch it but don't have the life to use it, then it's really a pity." As he spoke, Ning Chen's expression grew colder and colder. Although there was regret in his words, his tone was so gloomy that it caused people to tremble. Yinji's body trembled slightly as she looked at the 13th prince. She didn't know why, but there was an indescribable chill in her heart. The Ghost Clan pledged their loyalty to the 13th prince in order to fight for a bright future for themselves. But to be honest, the longer she spent with him, the more she felt that this prince was terrifying and cruel. He was even more ruthless than the celestial demonic clan who were known for their ruthlessness. She didn't know if the Ghost Clan's choice was right or wrong. She even had an illusion that the Ghost Clan's future would be completely ruined by this man in front of her. "What are you thinking about?" a calm voice asked in Yinji's ears. Yinji came back to her senses and looked at the young man who was imposing without being angry. She immediately restrained her thoughts and didn't dare to let her imagination run wild. Since the Ghost Clan had made their choice, there was no turning back. They could only believe in their own choice. "Tell your men to hide their tracks and don't expose themselves. Remember, don't touch anything from the celestial demonic imperial family," Ning Chen reminded. Yinji replied softly, "Go and arrange it. Come back before sunset." Ning Chen said, "Your subordinate will take her leave." Yinji bowed and left the place. Seeing Yinji leave, Ning Chen turned around and walked towards the backyard. In a room in the backyard that was sealed by the God-forbidden space, Gu Shengtian was meditating and healing himself. An ancient sword was sheathed beside him. Within the God-forbidden space, Ning Chen walked over and looked at the Lord of the East region who was healing himself. He stopped and waited quietly. After a while, Gu Shengtian slowly opened his eyes and said, "Looks like it's time for me to make a move." Ning Chen nodded and said, "The Forbidden Army is out and Commander Xian Mo has left. The guards of the 3 imperial cities have decreased greatly. Making a move now is the best time for us to make a move." Gu Shengtian nodded and said calmly, "I understand. I will make a move tonight." "Thank you." Ning Chen bowed politely and turned around to leave. In the palace of the Crown Prince, Xian Zhen, who had just recovered, sat on the throne. His face was still pale. If that's the case, the 9th prince's attack on the 13th prince's palace was not without reason. However, it seems like he didn't find anything, the minister of the palace said coldly. "All this time, we have underestimated the 13th prince," Xian Zhen said with a serious expression. Xian Zhen said seriously, "Ever since the 13th prince entered the imperial family, he has been getting stronger and stronger. Now he even has the ability to fight against Xian Qing and I. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, who would believe that a demon from the human race could reach this step today?" Xian Luo sneered. The Jiming Marquis of the Great Xia was very cunning. Putting personal grudges aside, he admired the 13th prince. And because he knew how terrifying the 13th prince was, he didn't want to act rashly before he had the confidence to get rid of the 13th prince. He knew that the Jiming Marquis wouldn't give him a second chance. Once he failed, what awaited him would be a violent counterattack. The night of the 3rd imperial city came as expected. The sky was still covered with dark clouds, but the imperial city was much quieter than usual. In the 13th prince's palace, Gu Shengtian walked out of the back courtyard and walked to the front palace. The ancient black sword had a sharp edge. The number 1 swordsman of the human race had shown his sharpness tonight. In the front palace, Ning Chen looked at the Lord of the Eastern region and said politely, "Thank you. It's my job." Gu Shengtian replied calmly and continued to walk out of the palace. "There's a demon wearing dark red armor beside the crown prince. If he interferes, just tell him," Ning Chen said from behind. "I will remember." Gu Shengtian nodded and continued walking. After a few steps, he disappeared into the darkness. After the Lord of the Eastern region left, Ning Chen turned around and looked at the woman behind him. "Tell your men to act in 2 hours." Inji accepted the order and disappeared into the night. In the palace, Ning Chen stood quietly in the night and looked at the dark clouds in the sky. His expression gradually turned cold. After waiting for so long, it was time to reap the fruits of his labor tonight. In the imperial city, a silver figure walked out with a black ancient sword in his hand. Born in this dark world, if one's heart was black, then so was their sword. In the crown prince's palace, there were layers of guards. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew and a sword rose. One by one, the guards fell down silently. In the palace, Xian Zhen, who was thinking about something, felt a chill down his spine and immediately stood up. In the palace, a silver figure had appeared. His sword moved and killing intent filled the palace. Chapter 1189. In the dark night, dark clouds blocked the moon. In the crown prince's palace, Kun Tian was unsheathed and the god of death descended. The sudden killing intent came without any warning. The moment the sword appeared, the wind and clouds changed. In the entire imperial palace, there was only one sword that was stunning. Sitting on the throne, Xian Zhen recovered from his shock and dodged the sword that was coming at him. Whoosh! An ear-piercing tearing sound could be heard. Blood splattered from Xian Zhen's chest as he was unable to dodge Kun Tian's attack. Having lost the initiative, Xian Zhen was in danger. He kept dodging the storm-like attacks. In Gu Shengtian's hand, Kun Tian's sword moved like lightning. His sharp and tricky attacks brought out a waterfall of blood, completely suppressing the heavenly demon crown prince. Bang! Xian Zhen dodged the sword, but he couldn't dodge the palm that came after. Heavily injured, he took a few steps back and his mouth turned red. Before he could regain his footing, the sword light in front of him broke through the air again, not allowing him to breathe. In the face of life and death, Xian Zhen's expression darkened. He made a prompt decision and grabbed the sword, fighting for a chance to breathe. Whoosh! The divine weapon tore through flesh and blood. Xian Zhen endured the pain in his left hand and punched towards the sword in front of him. Gu Shengtian sneered and turned his sword around. He also used the same method. Kun Tian broke through the restraints and stabbed into the chest of the former. Arg! Xian Zhen groaned as he was heavily injured again. At the same time, the demonic cultivator's fist energy hit him. Gu Shengtian took the attack head-on and retreated 3 steps back. They exchanged injuries. One was fighting for time while the other was fighting for a chance to survive. In such an extreme situation, both of them used the most extreme method to injure each other as much as possible. The overwhelming situation didn't change. However, Xian Zhen had to take a moment to catch his breath. He clenched his right hand and a purple-gold spear flew over from the throne not far away and entered the demonic cultivator's hand. At this moment, the tip of the sword appeared in front of him again. As the sword flashed, a sky full of stars appeared. The sword was extremely powerful and the star sword appeared again. In an instant, countless sword lights broke through the air and flew towards the demonic cultivator. Seeing this, Xian Zhen swung his purplish-gold spear across the sky and collided with the tens of thousands of sword radiances. The violent aftershock shook the entire palace. The formation appeared, dispersing the aftermath of the battle. It was supposed to protect the imperial residence, but at this moment, it became the demonic cultivator's talisman. The imperial residence, which was supported by the formation, was difficult for kings to break through. At this moment, a figure in dark red appeared outside the palace. He looked at the battle coldly and was not in a hurry to help. "Lord Xian Luo, please help us," the commander of the guards said anxiously. Hearing this, Xian Luo's lips curled up and he walked into the palace. The shockwaves from the battle made it difficult for ordinary people to get close. Xian Luo looked at the intense battle and gathered yuan in his right palm, preparing for a critical attack. The powerful auras of the experts on the battlefield were hard to ignore. Gu Shengtian sensed it and looked over. His expression turned serious. It was him. The 13th prince had mentioned him before lynching. The situation was tense and there was no time for hesitation. Gu Shengtian turned around and pushed the 3 worshippers away with his sword. Kun Tian activated his extreme yuan and the sun, moon, and stars appeared at the same time, enveloping the battlefield. "The 13th prince asked me to tell you that Ji Ming will pay you back with the descendant of the imperial bloodline." The purpose of the message was obvious. In the small world, the 3 evil spirits appeared. Gu Shengtian was fighting against 4 evil spirits alone. Hearing the message, Xian Luo frowned. He looked at the small world that enveloped the battlefield and his figure flashed, entering the battlefield. When the palm arrived, Xian Zhen's sword met it head-on. With a loud boom, the small world shook violently. "Your Highness, please leave first." Xian Luo entered the battlefield and looked at the crown prince. Xian Zhen nodded and left the battlefield. Gu Shengtian narrowed his eyes. His figure flashed and his sword came at Xian Zhen again. "They are your opponents." Xian Luo's figure flickered as he blocked the former's attack. Then, he took a step forward and left the battlefield with the crown prince. After a while, the 3 guardians surrounded Xian Zhen again and blocked Xian Zhen's attack. Outside the battlefield, Xian Luo looked at the crown prince and said, "Your Highness, please heal yourself first. I will protect you." "Okay." Xian Zhen nodded. His injured body could not be delayed any longer. He closed his eyes and circulated his energy to suppress his injuries. In the next moment, Xian Zhen's demonic qi surged and flowed to the wound on his chest to heal his body. The battle ahead was getting more and more intense. The 3 guardians were so powerful that even the Eastern Region Lord could not break through the encirclement. After the crisis was over, Xian Zhen opened his eyes and looked at the battlefield. He was finally relieved and focused on healing his injuries. Ugh! Suddenly, a miserable groan resounded through the battlefield. Gu Shengtian and the 3 king domain consecrators were all shocked as they looked outside the battlefield. Not far away, a shocking scene took place. Xianzhen's mouth was open and a blood-stained hand pierced through his body. His heart was still beating. You! Caught off guard by the killing intent, Xianzhen turned around with difficulty and looked at the man behind him in disbelief. Your Highness! In the battle not far away, the 3 King Realm consecrators came back to their senses and immediately rushed forward. Gu Shengtian's face darkened. He stepped forward and blocked the way, not giving the 3 a chance to help. Why? It was too late to be angry, or regretful. Xianzhen coughed out a mouthful of blood and felt the vitality in his body fading away. Because only by obtaining your bloodline power can I become an emperor. Xian Luo replied indifferently. Demonic qi surged around him and forcefully devoured Xianzhen's body. Xianzhen wanted to struggle, but it was already too late for him to do so. In the battle, Gu Shengtian frowned when he saw this. He took a step forward and withdrew from the battle. The small world disappeared and the world returned to normal. Gu Shengtian moved and slashed the barrier outside the palace. After a few breaths, he disappeared into the night. Inside the palace, the 3 guardians did not chase after him. Instead, they rushed toward Xian Luo. Demonic qi surged and killing intent filled the sky. Xian Luo smiled coldly. He flipped his left hand and a golden ancient mirror appeared. In an instant, the ancient mirror shattered and the space around it also cracked. The 3 kings flashed over after him. However, Xian Luo's figure had vanished into thin air within the distorted space, and not a trace of him could be seen. In the palace, the crown prince was lying in a pool of blood. His vitality had dissipated. He died with his eyes wide open. In the 13th prince's palace, Ningchen looked in the direction of the crown prince's palace and sighed. What a pity! At this moment, the space twisted and a figure in dark red appeared. Without saying a word, he struck out with his palm. Ningchen was already prepared. His expression did not change. He summoned his black blade and slashed out. The ground beneath Ningchen's feet cracked. It could not withstand the power of the 2's attacks. At such a close distance, the 2 of them looked at each other with unresolved hatred. Their killing intent was not concealed in the slightest. Are you satisfied with the gift I gave you? Ningchen looked at the demonic qi around Xianzhen and asked. Very. Xian Luo sneered. This time, we're even. The next time we meet, it will be your death. Let's talk about it if you can live until that day. Ningchen said coldly. You stole the crown prince's bloodline in front of everyone. I think many people will want to turn you into ashes, including the 2 demon emperors. Xian Luo snorted. He did not dare to stay any longer. He shook off the battle and left. Jiming Marquis, keep your life and wait for me to take it. Under the night sky, a cold voice echoed for a long time. A trap. Mortal enemies worked together to bury the heavenly demon crown prince. Ningchen stood under the night sky and looked at the chaotic imperial city. The coldness in his eyes was even stronger. This was just the beginning. There would be even more good shows coming up. In the imperial city, the appointed time arrived. Yinji waved her hand and gave the order to move. Soon, the entire imperial city was in chaos. Flames lit up the night sky and the sound of killing shook the sky. All around the imperial city, the well-prepared ghost clan cultivators immediately concealed themselves and disappeared. Outside the ghost clan, many cultivators from other clans who were trying to take advantage of the situation did not have time to leave. However, under the pressure of the demonic might from above the 9 heavens, blood mist exploded everywhere in the imperial city. Blood and bones flew everywhere and scattered all over the ground. An unparalleled demonic cultivator covered in demonic qi descended from the sky. His demonic aura spread out, and all the kings didn't dare to raise their heads. In a corner of the 3 imperial city, Yinji looked at the demonic cultivators in the sky in the dark. Her eyes were filled with shock. Was this the power of a true Emperor Dao expert? He was so terrifying that no one dared to even think about resisting. What was even more frightening was that His Highness had even predicted this. Thinking about what had happened behind the scenes, it was really creepy. In the 13th Prince Palace, the 8 Desolation demonic empress and Ningchen, who had been standing quietly in front of the palace, moved. A strange light rose around him as the yellow springs and the passage of time were activated at the same time. The aura was completely sealed, making it difficult for an emperor to detect it. In an instant, Inji's figure disappeared and flew towards the 3 imperial palace. In the Crown Prince Palace, the 8 Desolation demonic emperor descended, and everyone in the imperial city looked towards the Crown Prince Palace. The bloody scene was shocking. The 8 Desolation demonic emperor looked at his son lying in a pool of blood, and his demonic chi fluctuated, causing the world to distort. "Who are the murderers?" The 8 Desolation demonic emperor said coldly. "Demonic emperor, the murderers are Xian Luo and a silver-robed swordsman." A consecrator replied honestly. The 8 Desolation demonic emperor walked forward and looked at Xianzhen's heart that had been taken away. His killing intent became more and more terrifying. Demonic Emperor, Xian Luo is probably hiding beside His Highness for the power of His Highness bloodline. Today's rebellion is clearly premeditated. The second consecrator said. The 8 Desolation demonic emperor did not speak, but his anger was getting more and more difficult to suppress. After a while, he closed his eyes and released his divine sense. In the next moment, his divine sense spread out rapidly. 100 miles, 1,000 miles, 10,000 miles. A shocking demonic aura enveloped the entire primordial demonic domain, searching for Xian Luo. 10,000 miles north of the 3 imperial city, Xian Luo's figure appeared. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he turned around to look in the direction of the 3 imperial city. This pressure was from an Emperor Realm expert. The blood escape technique was a taboo of the demon race. However, in a few breaths' time, the demonic emperor's speed reached the extreme, and he disappeared in the blink of an eye. "In front of me, you have nowhere to go." The 8 Desolation demonic emperor snorted coldly, and the demonic aura around him took shape. A huge palm appeared, and it slammed down like a shadow. The battle of speed was beyond the king realm. A stream of light flashed past, and Xian Luo's figure flew to the deepest part of the sea. A pitch-black vortex appeared in front of him, like the mouth of a giant beast, and it swallowed the demonic emperor's body. Boom! Almost at the same time, the huge palm slammed down from the sky, and it blasted on the black vortex. In the collision, an earth-shattering sound rang out, and the sea within a radius of 10,000 miles suddenly shot up into the 9 heavens. The shocking scene shook the 5 continents. The King Realm cultivators in the primordial demon region and the 5 continents looked in the direction of the reincarnation sea, and they were shocked. The power of the Emperor Realm. What happened? Below the reincarnation sea, the 8 Desolation demonic emperors stood in the sea. Within 10,000 miles, the sea separated, forming a spacious sea path. Below, the huge black vortex swallowed all external forces, and it gradually returned to normal. In the vortex, nothing existed, and it was difficult for divine sense to enter. The 8 Desolation demonic emperor looked down, and he frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, he did not enter rashly. The bottom of the reincarnation sea had always been the taboo of the entire primordial demon region. Even the 8 Desolation demonic emperor, who was injured, could not enter easily. Xian Luo's cultivation had not reached the Emperor Realm. If he entered, he would definitely die. Although it was a pity that he could not avenge Xianzhen personally, since Xian Luo was dead, there was no need for him to take the risk. In the deepest part of the sea, inside the huge black vortex, Xian Luo had just entered when he felt a terrifying tearing sensation. Intense pain assaulted his body, and his consciousness gradually blurred. His consciousness dissipated, and the demonic emperor's body continued to sink deeper and deeper. Soon, he completely disappeared into the darkness. Xian Luo was in danger, and his life was on the line. In the 3 imperial city, a white-clothed figure flashed through the night, rushing directly toward the 3 imperial palace. Ning Chen had set up a trap to divert everyone's attention. He was the first to discover the place of the celestial demon royal family's highest authority, the 3 imperial city. The majestic imperial palace stood on the 90,000 stone steps. At this moment, the white-clothed figure appeared at the bottom of the steps. In a few steps, she arrived before the imperial palace. Chapter 1191. At night, in the majestic Three Imperial Palace, Ningchen looked at the first seat of the three imperial palaces and walked up. First Demon Emperor Kun was the true imperial emperor of the demons. He gathered the fate of the celestial demons and was the most powerful imperial emperor in the primitive demon region. Even the 7 luminaries and 8 barren demon emperors were inferior to him. Under the throne, Ningchen looked at the high and mighty throne. His steps became more and more difficult. Just one throne had a shocking pressure. First Kun, the most powerful imperial emperor in the world, was immeasurable. His ability to mend the sky was terrifying. He was far more powerful than the other imperial emperors in the world. Now that the first imperial emperor of the demons was not here, it gave Knowing Destiny a chance to step into this place. Around the throne, purplish-black fate circled around. The imperial aura filled the air. The closer one got, the more unbearable it was. Knowing Destiny was the son of misfortune in the world. He had fought all his life. His hands were stained with the blood of everyone in the world. No matter if it was the inner world, the outer world, or the primitive demon region, there was no exception. However, after experiencing pain and suffering that ordinary people could not experience in their lives, Knowing Destiny's mental fortitude had reached a terrifying level. Even with the imperial aura, it could not stop Knowing Destiny from moving forward. Under the imperial aura, Ningchen's body began to crack. Blood seeped out, dyeing his clothes red. The pain was so clear, but Ningchen did not seem to feel it. His firm belief did not waver for a moment. The only imperial palace in the world without guards was because no one below the imperial realm could enter. Even the imperial realm cultivators would be defeated. Around Ningchen, time and space were distorted. Under the imperial aura, even the laws of time and space gradually withered. Step by step, it was difficult and strenuous. It was like a portrayal of his life. Ningchen clenched his fists and ascended step by step. At this moment, First Demon Emperor Kun in the far east felt something. His consciousness gradually recovered. He opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the 3 imperial palaces. Someone had entered the imperial palace. Who was it? Other than 7 luminaries and 8 barons, who else could reach that position? The imperial emperor who mended the sky regained consciousness. After a few breaths, he closed his eyes and fell asleep again. In the imperial palace of the 3 imperial palaces, under the imperial aura, Ningchen ascended step by step. He was getting closer and closer to the throne. Around the throne, purplish-black heavenly demonic fate chi lingered. The imperial might became stronger and stronger, forcing people to go crazy. Boom! Just as the throne was about to reach him, the demonic chi in the air suddenly materialized. Under the boundless pressure of the emperor's aura, the hall began to shake. Under the immense pressure, the stone steps began to crumble, turning into dust. Behind Ningchen, the stone steps were dyed with blood. It was so glaring that one had to bear the burden of carrying out great deeds. The last step was right in front of him. Ningchen stepped up and looked at the throne in front of him. His eyes flashed. Ha! With success at hand, Ningchen had no time to worry about exposing his whereabouts. With a deep shout, all the strength in his body erupted. The green cauldron appeared. Under the activation of the demonic chi, the indestructible treasure of the Eastern deity realm emitted a faint green light. In the next moment, the green cauldron smashed down and crashed into the throne in front of it. When the immortal artifact and the throne collided, an extremely terrifying sound rang out. The purplish-black fate energy surrounding the throne was directly dispersed. After losing the protection of the fate energy, the throne collapsed along the middle of the collision. It was an astonishing sight. The first seat of the 3 sovereigns, which could not be destroyed by divine weapons, was actually cracked by a broken green cauldron. After one hit, Ningchen picked up the green cauldron again and smashed it down. The terrifying aftershock of the collision numbed Ningchen's right arm. He took half a step back and steadied himself. The cracks on the throne became deeper and deeper. Before the vibration stopped, the green cauldron smashed down again. Boom! In the earth-shattering vibration, the battered throne finally couldn't bear it anymore and collapsed. The destroyed throne was torn apart. Suddenly, an earth-shattering dragon roar sounded. Under the collapsed throne, a 5-clawed golden dragon soared into the sky. The dragon's aura was shocking. It was completely different from the demonic emperor's aura, but it was equally powerful. It was so heavy that it was suffocating. Dragon Chi! Ningchen looked at the 5-clawed golden dragon hovering in the air and narrowed his eyes. Under the first demonic emperor's throne, the fate energy of the dragon tribe was suppressed. Unexpectedly, the dragon emperor sword mark on Ningchen's right arm sensed it and began to awaken. It wanted to devour the dragon Chi. Seeing this, Ningchen threw out the green cauldron toward the 5-clawed golden dragon in the air. The moment the green cauldron sealed the dragon Chi, Ningchen's figure flashed and flew into the air. He raised his hand and pressed down. The divine prohibition light flickered and sealed the immortal cauldron. Inside the green cauldron, the 5-clawed golden dragon roared and kept attacking, but it couldn't break through the restraint of the immortal cauldron. After a long time, she came back to her senses and bowed respectfully again. She said gratefully, "Thank you, Your Highness. You've been busy for so many days. You must be tired. Go and rest." Ningchen said gently. Inji nodded. She calmed herself down and turned to walk to the room in the backyard. The final battle is finally about to begin. Ningchen turned around and looked at the dark clouds in the sky. The 7th prince and the 1st prince had fallen. The rest of the princes and princesses had also lost a lot. The imperial family itself had suffered a great loss. Coupled with the death of the heavenly demon 8, the heavenly demon imperial family had lost nearly half of their combat strength. With internal and external troubles, the invincible heavenly demon imperial family was no longer the same as before. The remaining 3rd prince was not favored by the 7 luminaries demon emperor and the 8 desolation demon emperor. He did not need to get rid of him in a hurry. Keeping Xian Qing alive was also a kind of restraint to the 9th prince, Xian Ke, who was the most powerful among the other princes. Now that his mission in the heavenly demon imperial city was over, it was time to prepare for the final battle. In addition, there was one thing that he was also concerned about. It was the life and death of Xian Luo. Xian Luo's existence was always a hidden danger. If Xian Luo died in the hands of the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor, it would be good news for him. In the Reincarnation Sea, Ningchen looked at the distant Northwest Sea. The place where the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor's aura had erupted was there. He had to go there again. The night was getting darker and darker. As the cold wind blew, it added to the chill of the cold night. Under the night sky, thoughts flashed past Ningchen's eyes. His white hair danced in the wind. It was unusually dazzling. Just as the primordial demon realm was in chaos, in the Z-Way galaxy beyond the heavens, demonic aura filled the air. The leader of the 6 kings of the Scaled tribe, the Scaled King, stood in the boundless starry sky. Blood mist surrounded him and spread in all directions. The array of life sacrifice, an ancient forbidden art. Once it appeared, wherever the blood mist passed, life would be destroyed and everything would wither. With the Scaled King as the center, huge stars began to wither. Tens of thousands of creatures cried in sorrow and gradually turned into dead stars. In front of the Scaled King, a golden hairpin floated up and down. Dragons and phoenixes coiled around it. The famous hairpin of the Western King kept absorbing the spiritual chi in the blood mist. Day after day, it became stronger and stronger. It vaguely showed the power of the immemorial God-Slayer. 10 days later, in the Z-Way galaxy, a figure in a silver-gray cloak walked out of thin air. Looking at the Scaled Tribe King in the endless blood mist, light flashed in his calm eyes. Not long later, a white-haired demonic figure in black robes walked out of the starry sky. Beside the demonic figure, the eternal night sex woman stood quietly. She had been with him her whole life. This is the root of the future disaster of the human race. The Jiming Marquis went to the primordial demon realm to create a chance for the human race. However, it seems that the Jiming Marquis doesn't have enough time. In front of the two, the Dawn Moonhouse Master said calmly, "I will fight for the time he needs." The white-haired demonic figure in black robes walked forward. His cold eyes looked ahead. After so many years, his demonic nature was even more shocking. After the ancient battlefield opened, although you all have your own opportunities, you are still far from the top kings of the primordial demon realm. I will help you in this battle, the Dawn Moon House Master said. Thank you. Xia Zi didn't refuse. He took a step forward. Black feathers filled the sky. The 12 wings of sin appeared again. Demonic power swept through the 9 heavens. The life sacrifice great formation shook violently. Bloody mist scattered, and spiritual energy flowed in reverse. Seeing this, the Scaled King's expression changed slightly. With a deep roar, he used his demonic vitality to protect the formation and forcefully reversed the flow of the scattered spiritual chi. Boom! At this moment, the demonic sword slashed down. Wherever the sword chi passed, a star would shatter. The boundless and boundless sword chi slashed apart the starry sky and swept towards the king. Another attack came. The Scaled King's right palm moved again. His demonic chi swirled and blasted towards the incoming attack. An earth-shattering collision reverberated through the starry sky. The king's palm dispersed the sword chi and continued onward. As the crisis approached, Xia Zi's figure flickered and dodged the palm power. He waved the 6-foot demonic edge, and sword chi shot out again. At the same time, the Dawn Moon Brothel Mistress's spinning spear condensed primordial chi to assist her sword move. The spear projection and the sword chi merged as one, and an incomparably sharp blade of light flashed through the air, slashing toward the king's stage cultivator before him. The Scaled King raised his hand to block the incoming attack. With a rumbling sound, the sharp radiance dissipated. The peak of the King realm is indeed extraordinary. The Dawn Moon Brothel Master's attack was ineffective. She looked at the Scaled King and said softly, Brothel Master's strength shouldn't be limited to this. Why don't you use your full strength? Not far away, Xia Zi continued to channel the demonic chi in his body as he spoke. When one gets old, one will always be lazy. However, it's okay to exercise once in a while. As she spoke, the sword chi around the Dawn Moon Brothel Master rose rapidly. The aura of the 2 parts shone brightly, shocking the world. The familiar sword will rush towards him. Xia Zi subconsciously clenched his fists. After a while, he relaxed them again. Was this the price that knowing destiny had to pay? Sword will, sword moves, sword bones, everything about a swordsman was used to create a new powerful swordsman. With the appearance of the sword will, the Dawn Moon Brothel Master moved. With extreme speed, she appeared before the Scaled King in an instant. The yellow spring appeared, and a sharp radiance pierced through the sky. The Scaled King waved his hand to block the spear projection. Before he could react, a silhouette in a silver-gray cloak appeared behind him. With an ancient sword in hand, the silhouette slashed at the Scaled King's back. The Scaled King's body trembled. He turned around and grabbed the ancient sword, blocking the fatal attack. It was an unbelievable scene. In front and behind the Scaled King, 2 identical silhouettes appeared. One wielded a spear while the other wielded a sword. Doppelganger technique. The Scaled King was shocked. He condensed demonic chi in his palms and struck out. Doppelganger? You've underestimated me. As the palms struck out, the 2 silhouettes disappeared and reappeared as one. With a slash of the sword, it shook the heavens and the earth. The Scaled King turned his palm to block the sword. At this moment, the same scene happened. Behind the Scaled King, a silhouette wielding a spear appeared. The Scaled King's pupils constricted. He channeled demonic chi in his palms to block the attack. At this moment, an empty space appeared in front of the Scaled King. In the blink of an eye, the demonic chi appeared. The frenzy of doomsday drew endless demonic chi and pierced it towards the Scaled King's chest. Boom! A violent collision sounded. The scales on the Scaled King's chest blocked the peerless demonic chi. It was an indestructible defense. Back off! The Scaled King was furious. With a roar, demonic chi exploded and forced the 2 to retreat. 10 steps away, the Dawn Moon Tower Master stopped. She looked at the Scaled King in front of her and narrowed her eyes. Shocking defensive power. It seemed like if they wanted to kill this person, they would have to find a way to break his armor. We need one more person. The Dawn Moon Tower Master said calmly. In this world, there are only two people with instantaneous offensive power. The Phoenix Physique at Knowing Destiny State or the Daughter of Desolation City, Mu Qingxue. Xia Zi said seriously. The Phoenix has already undergone nirvana. There's no time to wait for its successor to mature. The Dawn Moon Tower Master looked at the terrifying life sacrifice grand array and said, the Daughter of Desolation City is at the Reverence Moon Ancient Ground. Miss Lufei, please go there as soon as possible. Lufei nodded. Without any delay, her figure flashed and flew towards the Reverence Moon Ancient Ground. After Lufei left, the Dawn Moon Tower Master and Xia Zi looked back at the Scaled King in front of them. What they needed to do now was to delay until the Daughter of Desolation City arrived. In the ancient times, there were peerless kings who fought for 1,000 days in order to prove their sovereign Tao. Now, for the future of the human race, they were going to start a long war. Xia Zi, Peak King Realm experts are rare. Try to experience this battle. It will benefit you immensely. The Dawn Moon Tower Master said. Xia Zi nodded. His cold eyes looked ahead. Demonic chi rose from his body, covering the sky. All these years, he owed the Knowing Destiny State a lot. Now it was time to pay it back. No matter how long the Knowing Destiny State needed, he would try his best, even if he had to pay with his life. Both sides moved, and a great battle broke out. The two people who charged into the blood mist fully unleashed their martial arts, shining like shooting stars. Just as the great battle started, in the primal demon realm, in the northwest of the central continent, a white-clothed figure passed by and rushed towards the Reincarnation Sea. At the center of the sea, in the Reincarnation Sea, there was a huge whirlpool that had never stopped for countless years. When the cold moon rose from the east, the white-clothed figure arrived and stood in the air. After thinking for a while, he directly rushed into the sea below. In the sea, Ning Chen's figure fell rapidly, faster and faster. A huge pressure gradually came from all directions. It was getting heavier and heavier, and gradually became unbearable. The light of the divine restriction rose around Ning Chen. He separated the pressure of the sea with the law of space and continued to plunge downward. After an unknown period of time, in the deepest part of the sea, a huge black whirlpool appeared. It was unfathomable and swallowed all light. An indescribable sense of danger came. Ning Chen stopped and did not rashly enter. There was no sign of life around the black whirlpool. All the sea creatures seemed to be intentionally or unintentionally avoiding this place. Nothing dared to get close. After standing still for a while, sword chi gathered in Ning Chen's right hand. In the blink of an eye, the sword chi broke through the air and plunged into the black whirlpool. Silence. It was still silence. The black whirlpool swallowed the sword chi without any movement. It was shocking. Ning Chen frowned and looked serious. What a strange thing. No wonder the 8th Desolation Demon Emperor returned to the Imperial City so quickly. Even this Demon Emperor did not dare to step into it easily. If Xian Luo really entered it, he would most likely have died. However, before seeing Xian Luo's body with his own eyes, he could not be too careless. Ning Chen had important matters to attend to, so he did not stay in the sea for long. He took a step and went back the way he came. In the Yin Sea Ghost Prison, ghost chi filled the air and covered the sky. The Ghost Clan was a powerful royal clan that lived in the endless abyss. They did not like sunlight and often walked at night. The men in the clan were ugly and looked like ghosts. Therefore they were called Ghost. When the first rays of the morning sun shone, Knowing Destiny appeared in the sky above the Yin Sea Ghost Prison. His body was surging with demonic chi, powerful and heavy. Below the ghost prison, ghost chi spread out. Many Ghost Clan elites appeared and stood on both sides to welcome the arrival of the 13th Prince of the Heavenly Demon Clan. Above the Ghost Clan elites, Inji stood quietly. She looked at the young man who came to the ghost prison with joy. "Greetings, Your Highness." Inji bowed. Behind her, thousands of Ghost Clan elites followed suit. The shocking formation showed the sincerity of the Ghost Clan. Ning Chen's figure descended from the sky and walked toward the depths of the ghost prison. Yinji accompanied by his side. Her footsteps were always half a body's length to show her respect. In the depths of the ghost prison, there was a bloody waterfall. Half a day later, a black demon emperor badge appeared above the Yinsi ghost prison in the 9th prince's mansion. Its powerful demonic aura shook the world. The demon emperor has ordered the 9th prince to come to the palace immediately. In the 9th prince's mansion, Xian Kei's eyes flickered when he heard the order. The day he had been waiting for had finally arrived. In the deepest part of the Yinsi ghost prison, Ning Chen looked at the demon emperor badge floating in the sky with a grin. A moment later, he withdrew his gaze and looked at the emperors of the ghost tribe in front of him. He said, "I'm sorry, I must return now." Now that Xian Kei had been bestowed the 9 King Pearl, as long as he had military merits, he would naturally become the crown prince. The new infighting would push this colossus into the abyss even faster. 13. What about you? Do you have any suggestions? Asked the 8 Desolation Devil Emperor. Ning Chen lowered his head and respectfully said, "This subject requests to head to the southern battlefield to resist the invasion of the scaled race." The 8 Desolation Demon Emperor narrowed his eyes and asked, "Why not the east?" Demon Emperor, Prince Xianlai is guarding the eastern battlefield. Even if the divine capital mountain sends out all of its troops, Prince Xianlai should have a way to deal with it. On the other hand, the scaled race in the south is being pressured by the 5 kings of the scaled race. The Sky Devil royal family has sent the least forces to the south. If we do not send reinforcements soon, there might be unexpected changes. Under the stone steps, Ning Chen analyzed the situation according to the current situation. In front of the 3 Emperors' palace, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor and the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor looked at each other after hearing Ning Chen's words. After a long while, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor said, "As you have requested, from today onwards, you will lead 10,000 red-armored soldiers to the south to provide reinforcements." Ning Chen bowed and accepted the order. After the order was given, the 2 demon emperors did not linger in front of the imperial palace. Their figures faded and disappeared. After the 2 demon emperors left, Ning Chen and Xian Kei stood up and left together. "9th royal brother, congratulations," Ning Chen said on the way. Xian Kei nodded and said emotionally, "Thank you for your help, 13th royal brother." 9th royal brother deserves all of this. Ning Chen smiled and said, "There is still one last step. As long as 9th royal brother can return with contributions, you will soon be conferred the title of crown prince." "Thank you for your kind words, 13th royal brother," Xian Kei replied. As the 2 chatted, a fork appeared in front of them. The 2 parted ways and walked toward their respective mansions. In the 13th royal prince's palace, Yinji waited quietly. Behind her, 10 figures surrounded by ghostly qi were faintly discernible. Their powerful auras were shocking. The Yinhai 10 ghosts were the warriors of death that the ghost race had secretly cultivated. Each of them had a cultivation close to the king realm. When they worked together, they were not afraid even when facing a king realm expert. During the trip to the ghost race, Ning Chen had promised that he would forge an emperor weapon for the ghost race in the future. The ghost race had also decided to help Ning Chen fight for the throne and sent out the 10 ghosts as guards. Soon, Ning Chen returned. They did not dare to be careless and immediately rushed forward. The battle started. Demonic qi and demonic qi collided. The aftershock caused blood to spurt from the corner of Xian Zhao's mouth as he retreated a few steps. 1 against 5, Prince Xian Xiao, who was not good at close combat, showed signs of defeat. When the battle between the 2 armies started, crimson demonic clouds came from thousands of miles away. In front of the demonic clouds, a white-clothed figure stood in the air. Demonic qi surged around her body. She was abnormally powerful. "Your Highness." At the back, Yinji looked at the battle in the distance and said, "Do you need me to lead some people to go ahead and support them?" "No need." Ning Chen said indifferently, "Every king of the Sky Demon Imperial family is not easy to deal with. Just march as usual." Yinji heard and did not ask any more questions. She accepted the order. Thousands of miles away, the sound of battle shook the sky. Prince Xianshao, who was fighting 1 against 5, was getting more and more injured. However, the pride of a king would not allow him to retreat. In the void, the demonic flute floated up and down. Without Prince Xianshao, its power was greatly reduced. Bang! Suddenly, a palm imprinted on the demonic cultivator's back. Prince Xianshao spat out blood and staggered a few steps. While the generals were fighting, the armies below were also fighting fiercely. On the ground, soldiers from both armies fell continuously, dyeing the ground red. After several battles, less than 50% of the 100,000 Sky Demon army was left. The checkpoint that was built with blood was about to be lost today. Sky Demon's 7 transformations, Royal Sky Dome. Forced to the limit, Xianshao roared and the demonic figure appeared out of nowhere. The 5,000 feet long demonic figure punched down with earth-shattering might. With a boom, a king of the scaled race could not dodge in time and was directly hit by the giant fist. His body exploded. The full power punch had exhausted its power. Xianzhao's chest was exposed. Seeing this, Prince Li's figure flashed and a palm imprinted on the former's chest. With a muffled groan, the giant demonic figure retreated a few steps. The corner of its mouth was dyed red again. The demonic figure was heavily injured and instantly collapsed. Xianzhao's figure recovered to its original state. In the void, demonic blood sprinkled down and dyed the jade flute red. Doomsday Prelude. As the restrictive spell was activated, the whole world froze. Blood gushed out from Prince Xianzhao's body as he used the demonic blood as a sacrifice to activate the Doomsday Prelude. At this moment, a shocking scene appeared. Between heaven and earth, a black demonic sound spread rapidly. Wherever it passed, all life was extinguished and everything withered. The destructive power was indestructible. The 4 kings of the scaled race trembled and blood splashed out. The situation of the battle was reversed. For the first time, the 4 kings showed signs of defeat. The head of the 4, Prince Li, suddenly released a surge of demonic energy that did not belong to him. It was so powerful that it vaguely resembled an emperor's aura. The demonic energy blocked the demonic sound, and Prince Li's figure stopped. His figure immediately flew out and a powerful palm imprinted on Xianzhao's chest. Heavily injured again, Xianzhao's figure flew out. Blood sprinkled all over his body like rain, dazzling to the eye. Kill! Not wanting the situation to change again, Prince Li's figure flashed quickly. He activated his palm and the demonic energy hidden in it surged, shocking the world. In the void, the demonic flute sensed it and descended from the sky to protect its master. However, a terrifying collision sounded and the demonic flute shattered. The moment the demonic weapon was destroyed, a terrifying spiritual energy exploded and blasted the kings of the scaled race away. The dazzling vermilion color dyed the scales on their chests red. In this fierce battle, both sides suffered heavy losses. It was difficult to determine the outcome. At this moment, in everyone's vision, a red demonic cloud that covered the sky rapidly approached. The powerful demonic aura shocked everyone present. Not good. Seeing this, the 4 kings of the scaled race's expressions changed. The heavenly demon red-armored army. In front of the red-armored army in the distance, a white-clothed figure stood quietly. She raised her right hand and a ghostly aura surged out. But in the ghostly aura, an extremely powerful divine weapon appeared out of thin air. Boundless and endless evil aura filled the air. A sinister wind blew, and the surrounding sky immediately darkened. In the next moment, the 6 paths of reincarnation flew out and pierced through the void, landing directly in the battle. Outside the tent, Inji accepted the order and left. Martial nephew, do you have a good plan for keeping these spies? Xianshao asked. The rule of war is, know thyself and know thy enemy, and you will never be defeated. The scaled tribe sent spies into the city to investigate the situation and movements of our army. As long as there is a way to avoid or deceive the scaled tribe spies, the scaled tribe's army will be blinded and at our mercy. Ningchen said coldly. Hearing this, Xian Shao narrowed his eyes and said, "Martial nephew, please elaborate." 3,000 miles away, in the Scale tribe's camp, the four kings were sitting in their tents with their eyes closed, trying their best to heal their wounds. Outside the king's tent, a large number of soldiers were guarding it. In the horizon, the sun was setting in the west. Day gradually passed and night came. The cold moon rose from the east. The moonlight shone on the border, making the place cold. In the Scale tribe's camp, heavily armored soldiers came and went, seriously guarding against the night attack of the Sky Demon army. Just as the night was getting darker and most of the soldiers began to rest, a surge of demonic aura came from the north. "Enemy attack! Enemy attack!" An anxious cry rang through the night sky. The Scaled tribe soldiers who had just fallen asleep woke up with a start. They rushed out of their tents and picked up their weapons to defend against the enemy. However, after almost an hour, the expected Sky Demon army did not come. All the Scaled tribe soldiers heaved a sigh of relief. Exhausted, they returned to their tents to rest. On the city wall of Jiuzhou City, a silhouette in plain clothes stood quietly, looking at the Scaled tribe's camp in the distance. Behind Ji Ming, Yinji followed quietly without a word. She had followed Her Highness for so long, but she had never seen Her Highness take a break. Although a martial arts expert had much more energy than ordinary people, it was impossible for them not to rest all the time. From entering the Sky Demon royal family to attaining their current status, Her Highness' achievements in just a few years were unreachable by others. Previously, she had always thought that it was all because of the support of the demonic Emperor of the Abyss. However, after following Her Highness for so many days, she realized that there was no such thing as success without a reason. Her Highness had put in so much effort in every step. In the horizon, the cold moon moved west. The night gradually passed. In the east, the first rays of the morning sun shone on the silhouette in plain clothes. The godlike figure stood on the city wall, attracting the attention of all the soldiers in the city. At this moment, the words, 13th Prince, were imprinted in the hearts of all the Sky Demon soldiers. It looked inconspicuous. However, the words on the scroll were powerful and shocking. Prelude to the Doomsday. The ancient forbidden technique was one of the forbidden chapters of the Prelude to the Gods. Now that it was in front of him, it was hard to look away. The Green Wing King and the other two kings nodded. Their figures flashed and flew into the sky. "Your opponent is me." Ning Chen moved and instantly appeared in front of the three kings. He swung his ancient sword, and three sword chi broke through the sky at the same time, blocking the three. As the sword chi arrived, the three kings raised their hands to block. A rumbling sound rang out, and their forward momentum was blocked. At this moment, ghost chi surged in the sky. Yinji and the 10 ghosts rushed over and bowed respectfully. "Your Highness, I'll leave the three of them to you," Ning Chen said indifferently. His figure flew out and returned to the battlefield to fight Prince Li again. Frosty sword chi streaked across the sky, and the king's palms collided with each other. An earth-shattering tremor resounded throughout the battlefield, frightening both gods and ghosts. At the back, Yinji and the 10 ghosts worked together to block the three kings of the Scaled tribe. Their main goal was to delay and buy time for the army. The three kings of the Scaled tribe each displayed their abilities. Their powerful attacks were invincible. However, the 10 ghosts' figures were illusory and unpredictable. Their strange techniques and strange body movements made it difficult for the three kings of the Scaled tribe to escape. In the sky, Xian Zhao's demonic qi surged, and the prelude to Doomsday played again. An incomparably powerful Xian sound pressed down from the sky. The four kings' figures suddenly stagnated, and their qi and blood surged violently. They were already injured, and now that the demonic sound hit them, the injuries that they had been suppressing for a long time exploded. Their qi filled the air, and they were severely injured. At the same time, the heavenly demon army surged in like a tide, and charged toward the Scaled tribe camp below. The drums of war sounded, and the slaughter began. The people were plunged into misery and suffering. In the battlefield, the four kings of the Scaled tribe looked gloomy. They activated their demonic qi, suppressed their injuries, and used their ultimate moves to reverse the situation. The ultimate move of the four kings appeared, and its earth-shattering power shook the 9 heavens. In an instant, a huge Kylan dragon appeared in the sky. Its illusory figure gradually solidified, and the majestic draconic might vaguely reappeared. "All of you back off?" Seeing this, Ning Chen's expression darkened. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in the sky. Great Sword Realm. Pushing to the limit, the Sword Realm opened. In an instant, endless sword chi broke through the air and rushed to the 9 heavens. In the Sword Realm, Ning Chen held his sword horizontally. His left palm flipped over and slashed across the sword. Suddenly, blood flowed out and dyed the sword chi red. 6 paths fall, demonic tribulation thousands, Taishang Forbidden Sword. The Forbidden Sword appeared, and in the Sword Realm, thousands of sword chi madly gathered. It was endless, and there was no beginning or end. The scene of doomsday shocked the 4 kings. In the sky, seeing this, Xian Zhao's fingers slashed across the strings. Blood flowed out. With the royal demonic blood as the guide, the annihilating melody rumbled out. In the rumbling, the prelude to doomsday activated the path to hell. A shocking vision appeared in the sky and covered the entire battlefield. Below, sword chi gathered around Ning Chen. Thousands of blood-red sword chi condensed into one. The forbidden sword was formed, and its power was shocking. Doomsday catastrophe. In the next moment, the blood-red sword chi slashed down from the sky. With the support of the annihilating melody, the terrifying forbidden sword broke through the sky and slashed at the Kylan dragon that appeared out of nowhere. Boom! The doomsday had arrived. The Kylan dragon's illusory figure that had not fully solidified shattered. The blood-red sword chi continued to fall. Below, a king of the scaled race exploded. Blood splattered all over the sky like rain. In the aftermath of the impact, the other 3 kings of the scaled race were all blown away. They were severely injured. In the sky, the prelude to doomsday counterattacked. The demonic chi around Xian Zhao's body violently attacked. Blood flowed from the corner of her mouth and dripped onto the guqin. Below, the sword realm collapsed. Ning Chen retreated several steps. His hand that held the sword was dyed red. In the terrifying impact, the scaled race's camp collapsed. The scaled race army of 100,000 had lost 30%. After the most terrifying attack, Xian Zhao and the 3 kings of the scaled race had almost all lost their ability to fight. Their old and new injuries erupted. Their true essence flowed in reverse, bringing out a dazzling waterfall of blood. In the void, Ning Chen stood in the air. At this moment, he was the one with the most intact battle strength among all the kings. Scaled race. Ning Chen's figure descended from the sky. He walked toward the 3 kings and said indifferently, "What a disgusting race." As he spoke, the 6 paths of reincarnation in Ning Chen's hand shone again. The sharp sword chi slashed toward the kings in front of him. At the front, the White Fin King's pupils shrank. He wanted to resist, but he was powerless. The sword chi tore through the sky. The White Fin King's head flew up. Blood spurted out. The absolute defense could not withstand a single blow at this moment. The severely injured and weakened kings could no longer resist the power of the divine equipment. Behind them, King Li and the Green Wing King trembled. They used their last bit of strength to escape. "You can't escape." With one step, Ning Chen's figure appeared before the 2. With a slash of his sword, the king's wings were broken. The Green Wing King grunted in pain. Chapter 1197. In the southern battlefield of the primordial demon region, the Scaled clan was defeated, and many kings had fallen. On the battlefield, Ning Chen waved his divine weapon and slashed down again and again. He was cold and persistent, constantly destroying the will of the kings. Almost all of the scales on King Li's body were shattered, and blood flowed out, dyeing his body red. The intense pain caused King Li's will to gradually disintegrate. At some point, he even had the thought of giving up. Boom! At this moment, in the purple scale abyss far away, an imperial aura shot up into the sky. Boundless palm energy traveled through time and space and blasted toward the battlefield. Ning Chen looked up, grabbed King Li and threw him up. Under the imperial aura, King Li's body exploded, unable to resist at all. Below, Ning Chen's expression turned serious. He released the divine restriction to block the imperial palm energy. Boom! The imperial aura was unstoppable. Time and the yellow spring collapsed one after another, unable to block the power of the imperial law. However, the collapsed divine restriction bought knowing destiny an instant. When the imperial law descended, Su Yi's figure disappeared and flew 100 miles away. Boom! A terrifying tremor sounded. The ground where knowing destiny was just now collapsed, turning into a bottomless abyss. Under the terrifying imperial aura, more than half of the Scaled clan and demons' armies were slaughtered by the Scaled Emperor. Under absolute power, no one could resist at all. 100 miles away, Ning Chen looked at Prince Xian Shao in the distance and said in a low voice, "Sixth uncle, retreat." Xian Shao looked at the imperial aura gathering in the sky again. His eyes flashed with emotion. "Go. My time has passed. It's time to do my part for the demon region." Xian Shao looked back at the young man in the distance and smiled. "Remember to say goodbye to your master on behalf of me." As soon as he finished speaking, blood-red demonic chi gushed out from Xian Zhao's body. The earth-shattering demonic aura turned into a blood-red light pillar that shot into the sky. Prelude to the Doomsday Twilight of the Gods. The last chapter of the Doomsday Twilight of the Gods, pushed to the limit. Xian Shao burned his source of life. Blood flames rose around him, illuminating the night. The king of hell played, and the sky collapsed. Above the void, in the burning blood flames, the demon's figure gradually disappeared. His life's cultivation turned into the god-slaying technique. The crimson Xianin roared and surged. At the same time, the imperial aura gathered in the sky. A gigantic golden palm descended from the sky, ready to slaughter gods and Buddhas. The battle between the demonic emperor and the demonic emperor collided in front of everyone's eyes. The void in the sky collapsed, and the void expanded rapidly, swallowing everything around it. It was a world-shaking might. In front of him, the silhouette in white kept flashing. With every step she took, the space would jump. She was so close yet so far, and in an instant she was thousands of miles away. In the sky, the demonic emperor looked at the young man's shocking speed and frowned slightly. In the world, there was someone who was so proficient in the law of space? The demonic emperor raised his hand, and the demonic emperor's law filled the air. An incomparably powerful force crushed the void and slammed toward the 13th prince of the celestial demon royal family. The danger came. Ning Chen, who was already prepared, disappeared in an instant. He moved hundreds of miles away, and before he could reappear, he changed direction again in the void and moved forward. The moment the silhouette in white disappeared, the demonic emperor's law pressed down from the sky, and the entire ground collapsed. Seeing that the young man had escaped again, the demonic emperor's eyes flashed with impatience. He flipped his palms, and endless power gathered from all directions, preparing for a large-scale attack. At this moment, in the southeast of the primordial demon region, a stunning sword light shot up into the sky. Endless sword chi cut through the void and flew toward the southern border at high speed. The fourth prince of the celestial demon royal family, the #1 swordsman in the world, attacked. Sword chi filled the air and slashed toward the demonic emperor. The demonic emperor's eyes narrowed. He looked over and saw the thousands of sword chi rushing toward him at high speed. He turned his palm to meet the attack. The rumbling sound reverberated throughout the southern border. Under the demonic emperor's law, the thousands of sword chi dissipated rapidly, unable to shake the heavenly might. On the battlefield in the southeast, Xuanqi sheathed his sword after the attack. He descended from the sky and did not attack again. In the southern border, above the 9 heavens, the demonic emperor looked toward the southeast. The murderous intent in his eyes could not be concealed. A mere king-plane cultivator dared to provoke him. Were all members of the celestial demon royal family so bold? After a moment of delay, the silhouette in white had already disappeared thousands of miles away. Her speed was shocking. In martial arts, the knowing destiny state might not be at the top. In terms of intelligence, the knowing destiny state might have opponents. However, when it came to escaping, the knowing destiny state was definitely the best in the world. You can't escape. The anger in his heart had not yet dissipated. The demonic emperor stepped forward and turned into a golden light to chase after Ning Chen. In the celestial demon imperial city, Xian Juyo looked at Ning Chen, who was running for his life, and frowned. Why did the young man not fight back? Suddenly, the demonic weapon pierced through the scale dragon and rushed toward the scale emperor in the sky. The demonic weapon broke through the sky. Above the 9 heavens, the scale emperor's eyes narrowed. However, the remaining power of his incarnation could not resist the demonic weapon's power. Under everyone's gaze, the demonic weapon pierced through the scale emperor's body. The scale emperor's incarnation dissipated. It was an indescribable scene. The emperor's incarnation dissipated, and the war god killed the immortals. This battle broke the legend of the ages. Below, Ning Chen looked at Azura, who was standing in the sky, and a serious look flashed across his eyes. The war god of the demon race lived up to his reputation. Azura's strength had already surpassed the king plane. He was infinitely close to the emperor plane. The celestial demonic royal family was full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. The world's first palm strike Xian Lai, the world's first sword Xian Qi, and the war god Azura. These terrifying powerhouses were close to the emperor plane. If the royal families did not join forces, who could defeat them? In the sky, Azura turned around and looked at the white-haired young man below. He said lightly, "You are not as good as your master." Chapter 1199. Primordial Demon Region, Western Battlefield. After a great battle, the battlefield was devastated and filled with corpses. The emperor's power was shocking. Just his incarnation was already so powerful that it made people despair. In the void, the demon war god stood in the air, and his demonic aura gradually retracted. The war god had broken an ancient taboo, and the emperor had been defeated and disappeared. Azura turned around and looked at the 10 Sacred Region Palace lords in front of the Sacred Region army. He was calm and silent. In the middle of the Sacred Region Palace lords, Luo Jia also looked at the demon war god in the void with a serious expression. Azura had come out in the end. The two looked at each other, and after a while, Azura looked away. He descended from the sky and walked to the heavenly demon camp. Azura, welcome back. Xian Emo looked at the demon war god and said calmly. Azura stopped and looked at the half-dead heavenly demon royal army behind Xian Emo. You've worked hard. It's my duty. Xian Emo replied, since you've come out, I'll return to the city to report. Azura nodded and said, we'll meet again. We'll meet again. Xian Emo replied and looked at the 4 deputy commanders behind her. Stay here and help Azura resist the Sacred Region invasion. Don't be careless. Yes. The 4 deputy commanders behind Xian Emo bowed respectfully. 13th Prince, shall we go together? Xian Emo looked at the 13th Prince and asked calmly. Ning Chen replied and walked to the 13th Prince's side. Under the first light of dawn, the two set off and walked toward the heavenly demon imperial city. Behind them, Azura looked at the two's backs and narrowed his eyes. The 13th Prince, this disciple of 9 Nether, had too many secrets. It was difficult to see through him. The Scale Emperor had made a move just to kill this child. It was indeed unusual. In the southern continent, under the bottomless purple scale abyss, a terrifying demonic aura rose. The furious Scale Emperor's terrifying aura swept across the entire continent and shook the stars in the sky. When the Emperor was angry, the world changed. In the sky above the southern continent, meteors streaked across the void and burned with blazing flames. At the same time, in the depths of the heavenly demon ancestral land in the primordial demon region, 2 peerless demon cultivators stood in the air. Their gazes were solemn as they looked at the shaking southern continent. In this battle, the Scaled tribe had lost almost all of their elite forces. It was not surprising that the Scaled Emperor was so furious. 13th Brother had indeed given everyone a surprise this time. How should we deal with this matter? The 8 Desolation Demon Emperor asked. I'll make a trip there myself. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor replied and left the heavenly demon ancestral land. In the 3 Imperial City, when the sun was about to set, 2 figures rushed over from the distance, returning to the Imperial City. When the 2 entered the city, they did not return to their residences. Instead, they headed straight for the 3 Sovereigns' Palace. In front of the majestic Imperial Palace, 2 figures appeared and bowed together. Greetings, Devil Emperor. Just as he finished speaking, demonic chi surged in front of the royal palace. The 8 Desolation Demon Emperor appeared. He looked at the 2 people below the stone steps and said, Rise. Thank you, Your Majesty. The 2 straightened their backs. On the left, Xian Mo raised her head and looked at the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor in front of the royal palace. She said, Your Majesty, Azura has escaped. I've completed my mission and have returned to report. Thank you for your hard work. The Imperial City still needs your protection. I can only give you 1 day to rest. After 1 day, the Great Commander will resume her duties and continue to protect the Heavenly Demon Imperial City, the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor said seriously. Yes, Your Majesty. Xian Mo said respectfully. You may leave now, Great Commander, the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor said calmly. I shall take my leave. Xian Mo bowed and turned around to leave. After Xian Mo left, only Ning Chen was left at the bottom of the stone steps. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. In front of the royal palace, the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor stared at the young man below with a complicated expression. It was a blessing for the imperial family to have such an outstanding prince among the direct descendants of the imperial family. However, the young man in front of him was a human after all. Although he had the bloodline of the Heavenly Demon Clan, it could not cover up the awkwardness of his identity. The human race was the most inferior race in the primordial demon realm. Many big clans even fed on the human race. Allowing someone with the bloodline of the human race to inherit the throne of the Heavenly Demon Imperial family would undoubtedly cause turmoil in the entire imperial family. If he and 7 luminaries chose to suppress the young man in front of him and support other princes, the only ones with the bloodline of the imperial family who had the hope of inheriting the throne would be the 3rd Prince Xian Qing and the 9th Prince Xian Ke, whose bloodline was slightly flawed. Xian Qing was cold by nature. Once he got the throne, the other princes would not be able to survive. As for Xian Ke, he was still young and in the growth stage. It would be difficult for him to fight Xian Qing head-on. It was hard to imagine that the Heavenly Demon Imperial family, which had many geniuses, would fall to the point where there was no one they could use. Both of them had their own thoughts. Neither of them spoke. The atmosphere was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. In the primordial demon region, there were very few people who truly approved of Ning Chen. Bloodline and identity were like a natural chasm in front of Ning Chen that was difficult to cross. The Sky Devil Imperial family had never really conferred a king with a different surname, let alone a prince of the human clan. Do you really want to take the throne? Xian Juyo asked seriously. Ning Chen was silent. After a while, he said, Master, I don't want to lie to you. However, I will definitely fight for what belongs to me. Master, you don't have to interfere in the fight for the throne. I can handle it myself. Xian Juyo looked at his disciple quietly. After a long time, he nodded and said, Since that is the case, I will not interfere. This is the era of you young people. However, I hope that this is your era. Ning Chen nodded. For the first time, he did not hide the sharpness in his eyes. He said sharply, Don't worry, Master. Give me time. It will not take long. My name will definitely shock the entire primeval demon area. Xian Juyo laughed. This was his disciple. 100 years was just the beginning. It was time for him to shine. There was no need for him to be so lifeless like these old monsters. Just as Ning Chen returned to the 3 royal city, in the sorcerer tribe's holy land in the northern land, Sorcerer King Tianxin was standing on the central altar. The new Sorcerer King was beautiful and otherworldly. She was dressed in a ceremonial robe, which made her look even more beautiful. Above the central altar, the mysteries of heaven were changing. They replayed the past and deduced the future. Suddenly, Tianxin's body trembled. She stumbled and spat out a mouthful of blood. An emperor vomited blood. Above the altar, the mysteries of heaven immediately disappeared. Tianxin wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and steadied herself. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. In the past, she had tried to deduce the origin of the 13th prince, but to no avail. Now that she had attained the imperial path, she did not expect that she still could not see through the mysteries of heaven. An emperor had the protection of the imperial path's precepts. It was difficult to see through their destiny. However, the 13th prince was not an imperial path expert. Why did he block her deduction technique again and again? 13th prince, what kind of secret do you have? Tianxin looked in the direction of the heavenly demon imperial city. She was serious. The real instigator of this war was this person. However, what was his real goal? Did he really just want to change the fate of the humans in the primeval demon area? At the same time, in the Holy Capital Mountain, the Western Holy Region, and the Stone Clan's Holy Spiritual Mountain, the three top Imperial Path experts all looked at the primeval demon area. Now that the Scale Emperor had taken action, it meant that it was almost time for them to take action. Now, the heavenly demon Imperial family had suffered heavy losses. The imperial fate of the Imperial family had become unprecedentedly weak. Without the support of fate, the heavenly demon Imperial family would no longer be invincible. They had waited for this day for too long. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.